and then they start looking after Gizmo, and I'm off to the next tournament. So it's not like I get a lot of time hanging out with them, but maybe a day or so after we get back from that next tournament, and all of a sudden I hear A coming out of me and be about, and I'm like, it doesn't take long.
That's funny, eh? Yeah, exactly. You got to get back to the roots, Erin. Come on,
I know.
You got to get that stuff on. I'm just putting my timer on so my my phone doesn't time out on me when I'm in the middle of reading some of the questions.
Yeah.
So, anyways, give me a sec here.
But yeah, so it all depends on who I'm hanging out with. I mean, I've got some really close friends down here that they both she grew up in North Carolina and her husband grew up down in Florida on the Alabama line. So it's when you're hanging out with those types of people, that's the accent that comes.
No kidding, eh? Well, it's funny because I always bug Casey Walker all the time because she comes back from. I'm like, you're in Florida, Casey. I'm like,
yeah.
What? Who are you? I said. She's like, what do you mean? I was like, don't you hear your? And she was like, what do you? Oh my gosh, she's so embarrassed, right?
Yeah. No,
like,
I'll never forget the year after I graduated from Western. I went down to play on the Suncoast tour. So I'd been in Michigan, then back home for Christmas time, then down to Florida for 3 months, and then back, and I'm helping Webby open the shop, and somebody comes in asking about summer camps, and I start, and she stopped me mid-sentence. She goes, "Where are you from?" I live like 2 minutes away. She goes, "Where have you been?"
That's so funny. It's your environment, right? It's what you pick up. It's all the slang and all that stuff, right?
Yeah, for sure.
All right. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna get this live on Facebook, and then we'll get going. You can't see me. You can see me. I can't see you.
You do what you gotta do.
I'm just trying to log in here. So it's interesting going to this versus keeping it on Instagram because I have to screen record it after I've done it. It's such a hassle because you can't save it. And it's like, you're like, oh gosh, like really all I want to do is just, save this video and do it on Zoom. I can do it this way. And
awesome.
Right. So it's, now I'm just waiting for it to load. So it's spinning around like a wheel. But anyways, we'll get this live and then we can get going. But yeah, so crazy times, eh? Just nuts.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's so crazy. I mean, I was talking to I would expect golf courses to probably get back up and running in the middle of this month.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll see what happens. Okay, that's not working. Why is that not working? Okay, let's try logging in again. Here we go. I'll try to get back in again. Here we go. Stop live stream. No, I don't. Well, it says I'm streaming, but it's preparing. Oh, man, this is all still new to me, right?
Yeah. Hey, I mean, I actually was listening to a podcast this morning, and one of the things that they were talking about was at a school they did this untalent show or anti-talent show, something along that line. Of
non-talent show?
Yeah. And so the kids and the teachers were supposed to, for 2 weeks, I'm going to learn this skill.
Yeah.
And then they put on this non-talent show and that sort of thing. And one of the things that one of the kids said, it was really eye-opening to see my teachers struggle to make it okay for me to struggle.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, it's called the Learner Lab. I think you would love their stuff.
I'm going to make a little note of that, but that's pretty interesting. All right. We might as well get going on this. It says up in the corner that it's preparing the live video. So anyway, I'm going to flip to the double view so I can at least see you. There we go. Double. There we go. All right. Coach, so great to have you here. Thank you very much. For those of you who don't know this absolute rock star, she is trending unbelievably. I'm proud to say a Canadian girl, an Ontario girl, and she's got those Canadian roots, true and true. Coach Erin Thorne of the Wingate Bulldogs in Charlotte, North Carolina, Division II, just been named men's head coach as well as women's head coach. I mean, you've been just going crazy with the women's team, having just snagged your third Coach of the Year award. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And the girls, I mean, sorry, the women's team, I mean, are ranked 11th. I think you just said, was it 11th or 9th?
12th. It
12th.
all depends on which chart you're looking at, but
There you go. But I mean, to be ranked so high in all of Division Two, when 2 years ago you guys were 24th, and you guys have been just moving, so trending in the right direction, and it's a testament to both team and coach and players and working together, which has been amazing. And it's really cool because like you and I kind of became colleagues and friends just in the last, I'd say, 5 to 6 years, and but it's been really cool to see how you've been growing yourself in terms of like your coaching and everything that's going on. I mean, you know, you grew up in Bracebridge, Ontario. For those of you from the States, this is northern country of Ontario, which we would call cottage country. It's very beautiful up there. I mean, but born and bred, she worked for a legend in Ron Webb at South Muskoka, right?
yes.
Yes, and Ron has the I would say the honor of being father to Brennan Webb, head coach at Tennessee University, University of Tennessee men's golf coach, and Riley Webb, who was quite a player in her own right. And
Yep.
did you grow up with her?
Yeah, she's about 5 years older than I am.
Okay, all right.
But it's kind of neat. She's down in South Carolina, so you know we get together. We play at a tournament just across the road from where she lives.
That's very cool.
So yeah, I get to see her every once in a while.
Is she still in golf?
Yeah, she's actually just started up her own all-girls academy just outside of Hilton Head there.
Wow.
You know, CFO, CEO, whatever title you want to give her. Yeah, so the G2 Academy. So.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
Oh, good for her. That's great. That's great. So much. So, I mean, you are my third guest. I mean, last night I had the wonderful opportunity to have Susie Whaley on, which was like amazing.
Yeah.
What an awesome woman. And what a great, chat to have with. And I mean, this week being Women in Golf Week, you know, I can't thank you enough for coming on. I think you, and I'm not blowing smoke here, are really a well-kept secret. A lot of people don't realize just how much you've accomplished in a very short period of time at a university, to where these girls are winning and your recruiting class is getting better and you keep proving yourself. And I mean, you know what, it's really an amazing testament. And, you know, how do you think, now you've just been top loaded with coaching the men's team as well. I mean, to me, that sounds almost a little bit daunting. How are you going to thrive with this?
Yeah.
How are you going to make it work?
I think back to when I was still, you know, high school, growing up and playing, you know, every sport under the sun, and obviously still having to do well in the classroom and working for Mr. Webb in the summertime and that sort of thing. That being busy, and the right type of busy, not just busy for busy's sake. That's all I've really known for most of my life. And then, you know, as I, you know, was able to attain the PGA of Canada status, and Mr. Webb, you know, entrusted me with taking over the junior programs at South Muskoka. Again, you keep busy. You know how short the teaching season is.
True. It is.
You go sun up to sundown. You know, I had to look after our junior Pepsi Tour team. So I had 20 plus kids kind of with it anyway. So I feel like after I've done some reflecting, I'm like, I've done it with 20 kids before. And these should be more established players since they are college age, a little bit more mature.
Right. You think.
You'd think. But then also I've got the opportunity to hire a graduate assistant.
Oh, that's great.
Finding the right person there that I can trust, that the players are going to trust, that sort of thing. And then actually I had a female player that's in our conference from a different university reach out to me earlier this semester and ask about volunteering as a coach. She wants to get into it and wanted to learn from me and that sort of thing. And so she's all gung-ho still to volunteer. She's burning out school right now, which I get. So by the looks of it, we'll have 3 coaches to kind of spread amongst the 20 players.
Oh, that's fantastic. I mean, it's a great a really cool testament to you for people reaching out to ask to join.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty cool there, coach, because you get an opportunity to think, wow, okay, people, the program's attracting other people, not just athletes that want to go play for the team, but your coaching and what you're doing and how what your athletes are saying and how they're performing. I mean, the program speaks for itself, right? And I mean, that's fantastic. You're going to be able to have so much help, because I'm thinking, oh my goodness, like someone said to me the other day, Alan Stein, I had him on, and he's a great motivational speaker. He was a basketball development guy. But the really interesting thing he said there's no such thing as multitasking. It's like multi-distraction, right? It's if we don't do what we know we're really good at, we can often get distracted because we get pulled into another direction, and it really sets you off. So to have that plan, I think, is a great idea. And I think it's going to only help you be even more successful. So look at that. You're going to be like coach of the whole, D2 by the time you're done there, Erin.
Who knows?
Yeah, well, trending. Right way. Exactly. So one of the things, like, you came through the ranks of being a, club professional, working at South Muskoka, and then it just, you did a little work at Dominion with coaching. That was your first go, right? With
Ohio
Dominican. Sorry, I thought it was Dominion. Ohio Dominican. And then how did you end up in Wingate, and how did that happen?
Yeah, so the NCAA has like their job board, and just because that's how I found Ohio Dominican, I was still getting those emails, and just every once in a while I would open them up. I mean, I had full intentions to complete my master's degree there as a grad assistant, and it was a 2-year program, and just happened to open it up that day that Wingate had their posting, read through it and was like, ooh, this is a pretty cool opportunity. So
Yeah.
I went into the head coach's office, and we had developed a good, not only working relationship, but like friendship and that sort of thing. And I said to Chris, I go, what do you think? He goes, if you don't apply for it, I will. And so, I mean, I had all the support from him and everything. And, he said at minimum, you get, to work on your interview skill and that sort of thing. And, so went through the process, and, Mr. Poston, our athletic director at Wingate, and those on the hiring committee thought I was the best choice. And so
Awesome.
here I am.
There you go. How many, for those of who don't know, how big is Wingate? What's the size of the school?
Our student population is about 3,000.
Yeah, so pretty small.
Pretty small, yeah.
Pretty small. There you go. And how, when you're coaching players, right? Like coaching players across the board. I mean, I'm talking about myself, you, right? But especially in college, I was talking to John, oh my gosh, John Mills at, sorry. I was talking to John Mills at Kent State, and, we were just talking about how, he learned from one of the best in Herb Page, right? And I mean, and played for him, but at the same time, it's patience, it's motivation, it's inspiring. It's relationship building, right? Because you have to get to know these kids and these players to understand what's going on with them, right? And I mean, how they stress for a test, right? Or an exam, and how those are going. You're smiling. Here we go, right? And how to, it's like this, right? I mean, and I would, no offense, but I think coaching women way harder than coaching men at times. What's the magic formula here?
I don't think there is a magic formula. I think you kind of touched on it. It's more about relationships. And I mean, that whether you're in your kind of teaching role, my kind of teaching role, you're in the pro shop selling sweaters, it's all about relationships, right? So it is getting that time to get to know them, and first and foremost, let them know that you care about them, because until that point, you could give them all the best advice in the world, and they're not going to take that for anything, right?
You're absolutely right.
So the reason that I was smiling so big is you were talking about the ups and downs. One of our best players, she's a senior, waiting on word that she's going to get into a graduate program, be able to use that extra year and come back. She's known around campus for her smile, like rarely.
Oh, really?
Ever see. but the number of times where she's been so stressed out because she maybe has 2 tests on the same day or back-to-back days, and she's from Thailand, so obviously just the whole translation stuff, you know, it's difficult for her for some classes to even finish tests. So the number of times where she's actually been in my office crying because she's so stressed out. Like,
Really?
not a lot of people know that side of her. So again, as those things start to boil up, because of being able to have spent the last 4 years with her, I know how to kind of manage those things, maybe adapt her practice plan a little bit for that afternoon, or, hey, exams are done, go play 18, go enjoy, you know, like that sort of thing. So yeah, it's more about getting to know them. And that's, you know, one of the exciting things about, you know, now having the men's team is that there's 10 more people that, you know, I get to learn about, and both teams are so international that I get to learn about additional cultures and maybe just the differences that you know, a male sees it from a certain culture versus the female.
So how does Wingate become the center for such international players?
Truthfully, I think it starts with the men's soccer coach.
Really?
Yeah, he's from Ireland, Northern Ireland, actually.
I've had 4 Irish nationals on these COVID chats since I started 5 weeks ago. It's like they're everywhere. Anyways, keep going. Sorry.
Yeah. So he actually has been here for almost 30 years, and most of his team is international. And I think just as these sports really start to kind of increase and just the awareness and that sort of thing, there's kind of that prestige of wanting to say that you're a Division I athlete, whereas a lot of the international kids don't care because of the education structure. Once they're into university, it's so demanding. They don't have the opportunity to even necessarily go and play their Sunday 9-hole round sort of thing. So being able to combine academics and playing their sport is so appealing that, you know, if they're playing, they're good. They don't care D1, D2, D3, NAI, whatever. So I think that's part of why at a lower level, whereas the American kids, it's like, oh, this D1 school.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going there. And I'm like, we could beat them.
Right. And, you know, that's an interesting point, you know, and that I actually have that question right here, right? You were talking about the fit with Wingate and how, you know, you have some specific criteria. You have a kind of a checklist that you look for, right? And you're talking about fit, right? And how they get along. And that's so super important. And often that could be difficult when you're bringing in somebody who's an international student. And it's probably a little bit of an easier thing to do if you have a current Thai student who may have a friend that's pretty good to come, you know, it's like the recruiting process is a little easier, right?
Yeah.
What are some of your strategies to get the right fit with your players?
I mean, I'm upfront and tell them about that almost within the first couple conversations, that they hear the word fit out of me like it's going out of style sort of thing. You know, first and foremost, we talk about academics. Like, you could shoot 67 every single time out, but if we don't have the degree that you're after, there's no point in coming to Wingate. So I always start with the academic piece. From that, we also have amazing academic aides. So, you know, they do well in the classroom on their standardized tests. We're off to a really good start. Second is then the athletics. You know, do you see yourself as somebody that wants to be walking in as a freshman and have kind of the expectations that you have the abilities to earn a travel spot? Or do you just want to be on the team and be able to carry the bag? And there's definitely people out there, and I think sometimes, you know, that's why they go to Division I. They want to have the Tennessee bag, the Notre Dame bag, the, you know, whatever school bag, and that's fine if that's, you know, again, part of their fit. You know, then financially, I mean, tuition, you know, it keeps going up and that sort of thing at every single place. So again, like, you don't want to be setting some kid up to be, you know, financially strapped for the next 20 years of their life sort of thing. You know,
I mean, that's a good point. I mean, you know, one of the things that a lot of kids don't realize in this process, right? And I think this is one of the things that I'll just from a personal experience, because you know Casey, who she is. And I mean, she went to, you know, Eastern Florida because she didn't have the best playing record, because she, you know, coming through high school, she only started golf in grade 10. and, you know, only had 2 years of tournaments, and, you know, it was kind of like, okay, well, you know, what D1's going to look at me when my scoring average is 80, right, in tournaments.
Yep.
And, you know, coming out of second year, you know, that seasoning of going to play junior college, working on an undergrad, and getting reps and playing, and not having the financial burden, right? Because junior colleges have the paid, it allowed her to free up her, I mean, she's a great student. That was never the issue. Similar to Grace St. Germain, goes to Daytona State for a year, ends up going to Arkansas and just won a national title, right? So it's finding the right fit, like you said, right? You don't want to go into a place where you're, you know, if you want to go and just get the bag and, you know, it's all about the image, right? I'm more about, you know, that's the character versus the image. So I really think that, you know, if those players come across your radar, you're probably, I mean, knowing who you are, that's not really, you already know what the correct fit is.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's tough because, you know, these kids all want to feel like they're wanted.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's like, ooh, this coach is talking to me. Yeah. Well, you know, do you have the marks? Do you have the desire? What's your scoring average? You know, and what's your true scoring average? Right. We were, so, I mean, what are some of the, like, you know, marks, obviously, you know, education, number one, you know, for a player, what are kind of the baselines in scoring averages right now that you guys look for in both men and women?
Well, I'm still learning the men's side.
Okay. Sorry.
That's all right. Trying to kind of figure out what are those marks that I am going to be looking for. But on the women's side, I mean, definitely, you know, keeping it into those mid 70s on your average, and then having posted tournament rounds of at least an under par, you know, hopefully a couple under par rounds, because again, that's kind of that point that we're at. Definitely though, that there are kids, I've got the philosophy, because we have roster minimums, we help enrollment being a smaller school and that sort of thing, all the sports, is that if I've got 10 kids that all average mid 70s, but I can only take 5, I'm going to have a bunch of transfers, because somebody that averages 75 and stays home every weekend isn't going to be happy. So
No.
we still have role players on our team. So it's the coachable, the wanting to learn, just comparing themselves to themselves so that they see their improvements and that sort of thing. You know, so, you know, from a high scholarship dollar standpoint, we're looking at kind of the mid 70s with the proven, you know, I can shoot under par and that sort of thing.
That's cool.
Probably similar, closer to an average in and around even for the guys, with, you know, those under par, just knowing what their scoring average and kind of the early goals that I've got in my head for that team.
Cool. You know, and then every now and then you get a rogue freshman, like our Ontario girl, who, you know, just pretty much went off and, you know, named freshman of the year, Haley Mclaughlin. We'll come back to her in a little bit. I just wanted to say that's, you know, like, that was a perfect point, that like you don't, you know, sometimes you get surprises, right? Like, you knew she's a good player.
I knew she was good.
But, you know, it's like, oh, wow. Yeah.
And she ended up with our lowest scoring average for the team.
Right.
So,
exactly. As a freshman, right? And it's like, you're kind of like, didn't really see that coming, but there's adjustments. And I'd like to we'll get into her in a little bit more, because there's more questions that I have. So I had Brandy Jackson on a couple weeks ago, and Brandy, I got to meet at a junior board meeting. Great woman, you know, played Furman, you know, came second in the U.S. amateur, you know, great track record. And now she's doing this great recruiting, Brandy Jackson Golf. And, you know, like, one of the things she mentioned as a strategy for players with this craziness, right, and to stay in contact with the coaches, is kind of do like a video diary for a day in the life of, you know, say you're a recruit, you're sending it to me, you're like, hey, coach, this is a day in the life of what I do to stay active in golf. What have you received any kind of creative and or interesting messages from any recruits or your players that you have currently?
None from the recruits. They've definitely stayed kind of in that traditional text, emails, if we set up a call, that sort of thing. You know, but within the team, we've done a few things, you know, through tagging each other on Instagram or whatever, the you know, skilled challenges or the push-up challenge, that sort of thing. So, you know, again, I think there's the comfort there, especially the team sees, you know, that what I do with them and that sort of thing, that, yeah, if I tag coach, she'll probably do it as well and tag, you know, a few of her friends and keep it going, that sort of thing. So, you know, again, it's just that relationship kind of idea.
So it's kind of like you know, your team that, you know, hangs together, plays together, trains together, you know, inspires each other. I've been doing that a little bit with some of my kids, right? I actually had a great Zoom call with like 4 of them, these boys, and I challenged them all to the Sally Up challenge. Do you know what that one is?
I don't know that one.
Oh, it's this song that goes, bring Sally up, bring Sally down. And every time you go Sally up, you got to go up into a push up, and then Sally down, you hover. And you see, and the song goes for like almost 4 minutes.
Oh, wow.
On YouTube. Yeah. Okay. So I can get, I mean, I'm a 6'3", you know, 220-pound guy, right? I can get
Best an athlete.
Yes, exactly. Right. Finely tuned.
Yes.
You know, young too, very young. Anyway, right. Anyways, the like my one kid, Luke, who's 12, right? He says, yeah, I got to 208. I can get to 110. Like, I'm like done after a minute 10. Other kids are going like 136, 135, 145. He gets up to 210. I'm like, take a hike, right? He also weighs like 90 pounds, right? But this is a kid actually at March break camp. So we're in the room, we're watching the March break, we're watching the March Madness. This is a couple years ago, and all say he just jumps off the bed, drops down, bangs out 20 push-ups. I go, what are you doing? He goes, you know, January I did 1,642 push-ups in January. I said, you did? He goes, yeah, I keep track of how many push-ups I do a month. So I got to get in like at least 100 a day. I'm like, you're crazy. And sure enough, he just keeps doing this, right? I mean, but this is the kid that currently under this COVID stuff, he's up at a ski hill in Collingwood. He makes a 9-hole course, right? Like he goes out in big Sorel boots and, you know, goes and beats the golf ball around, right? Because, you know.
What year is he?
2025.
All right.
Vanessa's at 2024.
Yeah.
And she's like, I have 10 kids this year that are going into grade 9.
Awesome.
Which is like unbelievable. I'm just like, because I've been their coach since they were 7, right? And I mean, like all these kids that are going, so Alex Long just played yesterday down in they had this tour going in Sarasota. Because he's in Sarasota with his brother. His brother goes to school in Sarasota. He's in grade 9. Alex is in grade 8. Now, Alex is 3 inches taller than his brother. He's 13. His birthday's in July. He just played from 7,300 yards and shot 74, shot 2 over par, finished like 38th, to 1 shot behind Christian DeMarco, who played it, right? You know, like Chris DeMarco's son, right? And I'm like, he bogeyed the last 3 holes. Like he was 1 under par at the time. I mean, the kid's 13. I'm like, what are you doing? You guys, you're psycho, right? But it's like, he goes out and he plays, right? I mean, he's big, tall, he's almost 5'11" at, you know, in grade 8, right? So genetics, right? And he's been playing golf for a long time, but it's like, he just knows, like this kid turns it on. Like it's quite interesting to watch these guys do it, right? Both girls and guys. So it's pretty wild. How do you think your upbringing has given you an advantage in what you do now?
I mean, so both of my parents were elementary school educators. Along with being the head pro, Mr. Webb was also elementary educator, as was his wife. I feel like majority of the members at South Muskoka were teachers in some fashion. So I think that there was so much of that around me that I just knew it was teaching in some fashion that I would be doing as an adult. I mean, I can still remember, 5, 6 years old or whatever, Mom was phys ed teacher at the school that we went to. And, you know, when you're asked, what do you want to be when you grow up? I just said, Mom. I mean, like, who wouldn't want to play gym all day long? It's a 6-year-old, right? So I think that had a big impact on me. And then also, obviously, like, you look around as to who kind of was there within the junior program. I think I was about the 12th person to go off on a scholarship out of South Muskoka. We then had probably about 10 more kids after me.
Wow.
And then, as you alluded to, you know, Brennan's at Tennessee, John Handrigan's at Notre Dame. You know, so a lot of just looking up to those that were older, to see how you had to do things that, you know, it's all in those little details that add up to the big things. You know, so fortunate to just grow up. It's all about environment, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's why, you know, a lot of your kids are seeing the success, is that, you know, it's the environment that you set up to then, you know, allow that play, allow that growth, you know, and everything, that sort of thing. So I think that was a lot of it. Definitely feel like playing every sport under the sun. I mean, transition from golf, I guess high school started with basketball, then into volleyball. At one point, volleyball got dropped off because we started a women's hockey team at the high school, you know, and then into soccer, and then, you know, golf again, that sort of thing. So just, you know, all sorts of things kind of have impacted to get here.
Not to mention you play the guitar too.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool. All right. So my favorite time of the year, my favorite time of the chats, right? It's the Fast Five. So you don't know what's coming. I got 5 questions for you. We'll see how you answer. I got a little bit creative here, so we'll see what happens. All right. So I just alluded to the fact that you're working on your guitar. So what piece of music are you most proud of you singing and posting on Instagram? Which one?
Ooh, I think I always got to go with Brown Eyed Girl. It was the very first song that I ever played to an audience, for my sister's kind of going off to college party. So
amazing. Well, you know what? That was a great performance, and that's why I was like, do you take requests and throwing you stuff at you, right? So
yeah.
it takes a lot. I'm sorry, it takes a lot of balls to be able to do that. So hats off to you,
Thank you,
Coach.
Thank you.
So, all right, you're driving the team bus. Who gets to select the music that everybody listens to?
Me.
Oh, Coach rules.
Yeah.
All right.
I started off by trying to be kind of that, hey, you know, it's you guys, I'm good, you know. Well, they all put their headphones on and fall asleep, and then I'm stuck listening to their music. I'm like, no, it's my music. You guys can put your headphones on if you don't like it. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Coach rules. That's right. All right. So finish this sentence. All right. Because we've seen a lot of them. Gizmo, your dog, is
crazy.
Okay. He's a schnauzer?
He is.
Ah. And he's very cute. That's great.
He knows it, so we don't need to fluff him up anymore. He knows it.
Oh, he does, eh? There you go. That's a great thing. All right. So you have stepped into a time machine and you've been shuttled back to the heyday of Shell's wonderful world of golf.
Okay.
All right. Now, you are matched against a golf legend. All right. And you're playing the old course at St. Andrews. What golf legend would you choose to play against at the old course in St. Andrews?
I got to go Mr. Palmer.
Oh, I love it. That is a fantastic answer. Wouldn't that be so cool?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Actually,
yeah.
You know, timing wise, what ended up being our last tournament was the same kind of duration as the weekend portion of the Arnold Palmer Invitation. So I ended up grabbing myself a new hat from down there. I don't often buy, you know, at full retail price because I get so much at discount, right? But
it's like, well, how much is that? What?
Yeah. But got a nice little baby blue kind of same color shirt, pinstriped hat with a little the logo is just the Arnold Palmer drink, not
nice.
Yeah, I was like, this is different. I like it.
That's fantastic. Oh my gosh. You know, I remember when I was working at Trafalgar back in the day as the associate, one of the young guys was at Penn State. And he went for the agronomy course. He ended up being a superintendent. But he got to apprentice he was number 1 or 2 in the class, and they got to apprentice at Augusta. Right. So like they got to work the maintenance building and all this stuff. But I mean, he told me the story. They're working on the very first fairway bunker at Augusta. And you know, they have to stop because, you know, there's a group off the tee on the first tee. So the guys tee off, and as they're walking up, it's Arnold Palmer playing with 3 members, right? And he stops, and they talked with him about bunker construction for like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
I was like, what are the chances, right? That the legend, right? Arnold Palmer stops and talks bunker construction with you.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just like amazing. So that's a great, great. Who would win the match?
Probably him.
Yeah, you never know, right? Arnie's Army might get in the way. You never know, something like that.
Yeah.
Exactly. All right. So you have to choose one. All right. And I'm going to read a list. Okay. All right. Poutine, onion rings, sushi, fried green tomatoes, calamari, shrimp tacos, or
Butter tarts.
butter tarts.
Yeah.
I'm going appetizers. You went right to the dessert. I love it. However, I will tell you right now, you are a brand new, fantastic #1 fan of mine. I'm #1 fan of yours because you like butter tarts as much as I do.
Yeah.
Absolutely butter tart freak. I love them to death. I mean,
I miss them.
you know that Costco has that tray of grandma's butter tarts that you can go
Yeah.
and buy, and they're all individually wrapped. Yeah. I guarantee you that it never stays like sealed. It's always one's been eaten before we get home.
Yeah.
Like,
oh yeah.
I'm just like, yeah. I had Erica Larkin and Monique Thorez on yesterday, and I was telling them, like, pralines are perhaps like my biggest weakness in South Carolina, right? Like my wife and I love Charleston, and it's like you go buy a box of pralines at the beginning of the week, and it's like you have to go buy another one like 2 days later because I'm gonna gain like 10 pounds. Unbelievable. Well, you have a sweet tooth there, Coach. I like to hear that. That's great.
I certainly do.
That's cool.
Family joke is if I don't take dessert, then I must be sick. So.
Ooh.
Yeah.
You can't tell. How about that? There you go. Can't tell. Can't tell. All right. So I went back into the little archives and found a pic of you winning the playing ability test in 2007.
Yeah.
A little frosted tips and the hair,
yeah.
right? Looking pretty good. And but that, you know, that winning that playability test, you go out, you shoot 77-72 to get into the PGA of Canada and become a member. And you know, you've also played futures events and, you know, professionally and so on and so forth, and, you know, across, you know, Canada as well. You know, where have you played the very best golf course you've ever teed it up on?
Oof. Oh. I would say my favorite area that I've ever played golf is Arizona. We were super fortunate. Every spring break when I was in college, that's where we would head, and we would play a couple tournaments. Just absolutely loved it out there.
Cool.
We played just outside of Phoenix as well as up in Sedona area. So, you know, those 36-hole days as the sun's actually setting on your round to see the Red Rocks changing while you're still trying to make birdies is pretty special. Yeah.
That's so cool. That's so cool. How about in your professional career, where were you the most nervous teeing it up?
Truthfully, probably last year at the PGA of Canada Women's Championship.
Wow.
It had been a couple years since I was in a tournament. Surprisingly, there's not a lot of professional events right here in North Carolina, as much as it's one of the meccas of golf for the women, at least. So it had been a couple of years, and, you know, just kind of tied that tournament in with you know, some vacation time, and you know, Dad caddied for me as he often does when we get into a tournament, and smacked the drive down the left side of #1 at the ladies club there, and handed back. I just looked at Dad, go, oh my goodness, I've missed this feeling. But
that's so cool.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. You know, tournament golf can be so, you know, hard. And how have you taken your playing background and utilize that as a coach with your players now? What are some of the skills and traits that you take from your playing and help them be the best players they can be?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is just more the strategy. For some reason, I think, you know, whether it's the technology and everything, everybody's like worried about perfection of their swing, and instead of get the ball in the hole.
Mhm.
I often use the line because I have been complimented on my golf swing since I was essentially 10 years old. Like once people actually started noticing, like, so I go, guys, like if it came down to the prettiness of your golf swing, as much as I love where I'm at, what I'm doing, I wouldn't be here because I'd be wherever the LPGA is this week, right? So it's more about strategy, get out on the golf course and learn how to get the ball in the hole regardless how good it is that day. That's a big part of it. I've always been probably more of a cerebral player, but also a feel player. When actually coming to hit shots, I moved back tees probably too early for the length that I had. So, a good driver, then a good 3-wood, and I'm still chipping. But I figured out how to, get it into the 70s at a relatively young age and that sort of thing. But I had to play those angles so that I had the best chance at, my chip shots and that sort of thing.
Sure.
But now, I don't stand out there and practice all summer long while the team's away. And yet when I do grab my clubs and go and play with them, it's rarely am I, a bad day, that sort of thing. I'll keep it 75, 76, 77 most times. I've been really learning and jumping on as many decade seminars that Scott Fawcett is putting out there and that sort of thing, and really applying it to my game. And since things have shut down, get out for 9 holes. I've never had as many under par 9-hole rounds as I have in the last 7-8 weeks.
Wow.
In my
Good
life.
for you.
A lot of it is just really reinforcing, the strategy and just, his stuff is very similar to a lot of my beliefs anyways, but just that much more specific to it. And yeah.
That's cool. I had the opportunity to walk during the U.S. Junior last year when I was caddying for one of my players. I had the opportunity to walk with Scott because he was actually helping a young guy in our group from San Diego. His stuff is just mind blowing. I mean, one of the things that I think, and it was very interesting to hear you listen to it because or mention it because his technology that he built into this code and all this stuff. I mean, I've had chats with him, but it's unbelievably amazing how much it works, and how it can also change your whole mindset on a golf course.
Mm-hmm.
And do you find that is something that needs to be built into, or not built into, help molded into your players? Do a lot of your players come to you having an awareness kind of like that, or do they need something, hey, this is something that really helps you? And are some just like, yeah, no, I can't deal with that, it's too technical?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't ever really gotten into the whole like technical side of his stuff, but just kind of that broader. But yes, it still needs to be pushed into them, right? And this actually goes back to a couple years ago when the team actually qualified for NCAA regionals for the first time as a program. And the line that I kept hearing all year long, I got to make more birdies. I got to make more birdies. And so, we ended up having our worst tournament score at regionals. And so I sat down after that, after kind of blowing off the steam of, frustration from that event, and sat down because this line just all season long. And so I looked at our stats, and really the difference of birdies per round per player, barely shifted from our best round to our worst round, but our doubles plus was just astronomical, right? Like we were way worse with doubles plus. So one birdie isn't going to make up for that double, triple, quad, right? You got to make a bunch of them. So that's what really is sprung on to more the strategy and jumping on a lot of the decade seminar stuff and that sort of thing. And the ones that have fully bought into it, and the fat side of the green is something I say to the girls a lot. Those that have bought in, they're posting those lower, bad days are lower, and obviously the good days are really good and that sort of thing. So, it'll be interesting introducing it to the men's team as well. And again, all these podcasts and, Instagram lives and everything, the Tiger 5 has popped up so many times by so many different speakers, ranging from Scott to Bill Harmon to, Chris Como and all of those that I'm like, okay, and I looked at, some of the metrics that I personally have chosen to look at. I'm like, there's a lot of similarities here. And Tiger in his heydays never worried about making more birdies.
No.
And yet we as, consumers of, the Masters, the US Open, that's what we think, because that's what they're always showing is we're always after birdies. We're always after, firing our 5 irons at the pin or whatever. And in reality, they're not even necessarily firing wedges at pins. So again, it's just educating, the team on that. And again, as they buy in, sky's the limit.
I think, you're really touching on this is a great subject here, because I have such a hard time. I work with kids through the age of 11, 12, 13, 14 right now, whose their expectations when they're standing over a pitching wedge to a sand wedge. I have to say to them, I say, okay, look, what's the PGA Tour distance average from 100 yards on their shots? And they're like, oh, I don't know, 5 feet. I was like, how about 18?
Yeah.
Like 6 paces. That's still really close. But here's the thing. Some hit it closer because you see the shots from the guys who are like really good, or they just show the wedges that are really tight. And you know what? The guys who are still 100th of the world are amazing golfers. And you guys are putting so much stress on yourselves, right? It makes so much harder for you to score. And I think it's really an interesting point, because if you can get them to understand how to score rather than keep sniper rifling every single shot, right? It just allows them to be so much better. I would love to do this. I would love to have a golf course where I could go out and I could remove all the pins, right?
Yep.
And then take out my juniors and say, okay, let's go, and see what they'd shoot.
Yep.
Right? Because I honestly think that they might shoot better, and they might actually not try to, they might hit in the middle of every green, right? And have better opportunities to hit putts.
Yeah.
I mean, it's what do you think it is? Is it this? I remember listening to Brett McCabe talk about the anxiety of the 21st century athlete, how it's so high, and they want that they want it now, right? They want their expectations is that they want to be successful, they want to win, and they want to be good. And when it doesn't go good, they don't know how to deal with it. So then instead of, he brought up a really good point. You get these guys at Korn Ferry Tour, 6'5", hit at 320, golf swing looks amazing, can't qualify, but the guy who's 5'10" with a belly and hits it 280, wins.
Yeah.
Because he knows how to fill up the cup. So my question is self-awareness. Okay. How much do you think college kids could be better if they had better self-awareness of what they're good at and what they need to work on?
Oh, so much better. I mean, that's been a word that I've used a lot over the last couple of years, but now have coupled it with action. So one of our players that'll be a senior, she's always been super aware, but never gave herself permission a lot of times to make some sort of change. So I kind of referenced, I don't know how many years ago, Phil changing his style of how he gripped the putter midway through a round in the US Open. Like, we're all terrified to do it from like 1 month to the next. Here's a guy, and I mean, obviously he's got millions in the bank at the time that he's doing it, but he's still missing that major that means so much to him. And he's willing to change how he's gripping it to see if the results will change. So it's not only the awareness, but the ability to make some sort of action to create a different outcome. I mean, it's, the definition of insanity, right?
100, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result, right? I mean, it's just like, like, really? Like, I'm going through that right now with somebody with their, with the grip. And it's like, well, this is why you keep doing this. And it's like, well, they keep going back to the same grip. And I'm like, well, stop sending me videos, because it's like the same thing over and over again. And it's like, until they make that change and realize that, you know, it's like, oh, really? Well, maybe you're right. I don't know if it's just stubbornness. It's blatant, like they want to figure it out themselves and they want to be the ones that's, you know, the curator and the creator of their excellence, right? But it's like our jobs are just to help these people get better at golf, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
How much are you a development coach versus a fixing coach?
I want to say more on the development side.
Mhm.
I mean, and that's kind of as the years pass, that I try and sell, so to speak, when I am recruiting somebody, is that, you know, everybody's coming in with their own swing coach, and, you know, hopefully it's, you know, kids that have relationships, you know, like yours have, that, you know, by the time they get to college, it's 10 years. Well, they're not going to trust me all that quick when they've got somebody that they've trusted for 10 years. So I always talk about more that collaborative of, hey, we can send, you know, Coach Doug a swing video and we'll work on it. You know, I'm the one that's going to see you 5-6 days a week when you're in college. So I want to work with, and if Doug's got, you know, a phrase or whatever, I want to know it so that I can say, hey, here, and all of a sudden they're like, oh yeah. And it's again, kind of a tweak instead of an all-out fix, right? So I'm more about the development of like, okay, how do you score with what you have right now? Go home over the summertime. That's when you figure out any kind of technical improvements that you need and keep going there. So yeah, more so the development side of things.
That's great. You know, I think it sounds really funny when you were just talking about that. You're almost like the parent. If like the parent is the one I'm in contact with, because the parent is with the child for the most part as they start from 8 to 12. They're with them the most compared to me.
Yeah.
So they're so working together in a relationship and part of the team to get the player better. Once they hit, you know, that 12, 13, become a lot more self-aware of themselves and start, you know, go through their growth spurts and all that stuff, getting them to be self-resilient. I mean, that's a lot harder.
Yeah.
But they need less of me and actually less of the parents, right? And it's more like of a reminder. But it's really interesting how when it goes back into college, right, you know, it's like, well, who helped you get there? It's like, well, the coach did, right? And it's like the relationship with that is very, very nice to hear, because you get some who don't want to have anything to do with the players. You get some who want to get in there really quite a bit, right? And I remember this line from her page: we're playing golf, we're not playing golf swing, right? And often, you know, when you get to college, if you have something that's going wrong, you got to get on the TrackMan. You got to get the video going. You got to get it on 3D. You got to figure out what the heck's wrong with me, when it could be just a confidence thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Or,
All right.
mean, you kind of alluded to it. Maybe it's midterm week and you're stressed out to the max and you're holding the club just a fraction tighter.
Just a fraction tighter. Oh my gosh. I remember listening to David Orr talk about giving a putting lesson. He says, did you play a musical instrument, to the guy? He goes, yeah. He goes, what'd you play? Clarinet. He goes, okay, reduce the tone on your fingers.
Wow.
Right? Reduce the tone. He goes, okay. And sure enough, he reduced the tone on his finger grip and he rolled the putt so much better.
Yeah.
A pretty interesting thing for a musician like you.
Yeah.
I thought that was a kind of cool thing. All right. So you kind of have a Canadian, you know, budding superstar in Team Ontario, former standout Hayley Mclaughlin. I mean, wow, she comes down. She has an amazing season. Not to mention, you had 5 players named all conference, right?
Yep.
And you guys, you know, she was also named first team all SAC, right? And it's like, wow, like we talked about a little bit, didn't really see it coming. Knew she was a good player because she was fairly successful here in Ontario. But what's been the catalyst for her to kind of be a standout like this?
I think the competitiveness. You know, there are 2 seniors, Diane McDonald, also from Ontario, and then mine, Pontchartrain from Thailand. They're 1 and 1A in the record books, right? So I mean, you know, to be able to play with them this year and see where kind of the standard is, and not just kind of read about it, but how they went about things and everything like that. But yeah, her competitiveness, her openness to learning, you know, as much as there was, you know, some high standards, and when things weren't going her way, you know, the shoulders would slump and that sort of thing. And it's just like, hey, like, you're learning. and really kind of, there'd be times, have to kind of get in her face and kind of remind her, like, no crying in baseball kind of idea. As much as there's times where I've cried on the golf course lots.
Sure.
Just like, hey, like, let's take a step back. I'm pushing you because I know how good you can be and want to be. I mean, she's got aspirations to try and chase down the tour after she graduates and that sort of thing. So, those types of behaviors are key right now for that long-term success, with what you've got in your mind. Like,
did you find her competitiveness push the two seniors who were 1 and 1A, like, because this young kid is coming at them, and it was a bit of an interesting, did you kind of take a step back sometimes and kind of go, I'm just gonna sit back and watch this play out?
Yeah, but it was healthy.
That's what I mean, like, from a healthy standpoint.
Always healthy competition.
Yeah.
I mean, that's been one of the things. I mean, anytime you get a group of women together, there's going to be issues, right? But
Really?
We're, for the most part, pretty drama free. I say pretty drama free. We still have some drama and that sort of thing. But again, we use communication as one of our core values, so that we can squash. It's something that Mr. Webb taught me: don't make a mountain out of a molehill, right? So, I mean, if there was ever an issue, you take care of it before it's massive. So because of those kind of core values, I think the healthy competition, not out of those three, but out of everybody, like, everybody's just as happy if, Haley wins versus mine versus Diana, saying, whomever, right? There is that camaraderie of, if you do well and I beat you, awesome. But if I do everything to my best ability, but you still beat me, the team's doing great.
There you go. See, that's a winning, and this is just the formula about why you're such a successful coach, Erin. It really comes shining through when you hear stuff like this about your players and how you get them to work together as a team. So what advice can you give junior girls, regarding scholarships and playing D2? Because you wrote a really good article for Golf WRX about why playing in Division II is a little undersung, a little bit, it isn't quite alluded to as the success it can be. And I mean, there was a young girl who played at Credit Valley named Annika, and she was amazing. And she played Division II in Illinois and played great and was like player of the year and all that stuff and had a full ride and so on and so forth. Why does D2 get the hard knocks, and what should junior girls think about when they're pursuing that scholarship, and why D2 is a consideration?
Yeah, again, it comes back to fit, right? Mid-major D1, I didn't have any D2 schools knocking on my door when I was going through the process, and I absolutely loved my experience at Western Michigan, right? But a small school called Kent State was in our conference,
Small,
21 or something straight MAC women's golf championships. So, there was that, but again, I had an absolutely wonderful time, but I didn't have a school like Wingate, that's continuing to climb, the rankings and that sort of thing, say, hey, we're interested in you. So, for me, being a competitive person, if I've got those two choices, I'm probably going to the one that says, hey, we're building towards a national championship. Or one of the other Division II top schools that says, hey, we're a national champion. Like, again, even if golf professionally isn't your passion after you graduate, what looks kind of better on that resume, that you won a national championship or that you played D1, right? I think a lot of, depending on the industry that you're in, that national championship's gonna carry a little bit more weight and that sort of thing. So
I can tell you right now, I won a national title in my last year as co-captain at Humber College for basketball. It's something that to me, I mean, we were on par with like a D2 team to win a national title. The connection I have with the guys from my team that I'm still in touch with, it's crazy because it's 30 years next year. Ugh, I'm old. 30 years next year that we won, right? And to this day, we still talk about it because it was the very first one in the school's championship. So you know, working towards a D1, you know, working towards a national title and how you build that. I mean, that's a great sellable point. And I think you bring up some really amazing things about how you should look at it when it's your selection process. What do you want to get out of the school? Buy first, education first, experience second, right? And if it's a great fit, just like this rock star coach just said to me. So, you know what, Erin, this hour just flew by. I just cannot believe how quickly these hours go by because we get going on tangents. And you know what, Coach, you are, I mean, I've been a big fan always, but I mean, you know, in the last few years since we got to know each other, but you know what, I hope so many more people follow you, follow your process. You know what, guys, if you're a player, you should reach out, talk to her, find out what it takes to play at Wingate. Because maybe it might be the right fit. This is an amazing coach, and you know what? She can help your education and your golf career further on. You know what? You're on your way to racing towards a national title in Division II. So, Coach, enjoy your time with Gizmo down in Charlotte. Stay safe, and you know, always thank you to you. And I got to do a little shout out to all the frontline workers who are keeping us all safe. Anybody you want to shout out to or say thank to, or?
I mean, nobody specific, you know, but just everybody that is doing what they're supposed to be doing, you know, with the stay home and that sort of thing, and wait for each step to come forward. But obviously, all those that are the essential workers and out there and having to go regardless. So
perfect.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, like I said, I can't thank you enough for being on, Erin. You enjoy every bit of this, and I hope you guys, you know, I hope we get into summer and your recruiting class gets all figured out, and especially with who can come back and how they're going to do it, and go from there. So I thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks, Doug.
All right.
All right.
Don't go away.
Okay.
Don't go away.